is Pamy. I'm from VisCreative. So there is a little slight change in the topic. So we decided the previous topic was a little bit mouthful. So I think when we talk about designing shopping malls, this is what we're very passionate about. But essentially from the developer and landlord standpoint, we specialize in making money for the clients. So that's why we changed the topic to call the Profit Blueprint, how smart design drives footfall and financial growth in shopping malls. So just a little bit background about myself. We've been in the retail design industry for the last 21 years. Okay, I might look young, but yeah, I'm not that young, all right. So we've started with designing for retail tenants, ranging from small clients, from F&B, food kiosks, digital stores, and right now we've moved on to designing over 50 supermarkets in Malaysia, which is a mid to high-end premium grocers, and departmental stores. We recently, for the last 5 years, also started moving into designing a lot of interior for shopping malls, and that's why, because everywhere we go, we like to see shopping malls. We are also contributing writers for retail trends for Focus Malaysia, and I'm also a speaker and trainer for the Malaysian Shopping Mall Association. So just to keep things a bit light, I see some Malaysian friends. However, I also see a lot of people from the region. So Malaysia itself, we have 33 million population. I have two small dog gifts, and I would like to just run some numbers with you guys, and maybe you can just take a wild guess. So based on 2022, anyone want to take a wild guess with 33 million population in Malaysia, how many shopping malls do we have? So the actual number in Malaysia right now stands at 733. Technically, it's a lot, okay? In Malaysia, we love to shop because the weather is so hot. I don't think we are park people or outdoor people. So most of the time, a lot of Malaysians, we like to go to the shopping mall because of free air conditioning, right? Free car park, free aircon. And 40% of these numbers alone is situated in the Klang Valley, which is the Greater Kuala Lumpur. So considerably 200 and close to 300 shopping malls just to serve 10 million people is a lot, right? In some ways, I'm not disputing it because it keeps business going, yeah, but it also means that it's getting very, very competitive, and we are still continuing to build more shopping malls, yeah? We are trying to use shopping as a good tourist attraction to bring people to come into Malaysia. But essentially, I think locally, we're also trying to fuel the economic growth through shopping and retail. So we're saying that with so many of these shopping malls, right, there will be malls that will do very well. There will be malls that don't do very well. Essentially, the same amount of shopping mall, but the same amount of retail pool. So shopping malls that have the similar brands and similar products don't necessarily means that they will stand out. So from our standpoint, design now plays a very important part. So design is just not about aesthetics. It's not about helping developers spend more money, but it's also very strategic. A well-planned mall really can help developers look at how they can differentiate themselves to get the right kind of customers and the kind of returns that they're looking at. So again, attracting the right customers, enhancing the experiences, which I think today's topic, a lot of the speakers were talking about experiences. And for us, it's very important because our population is so small and the tourist market is always ever changing. Repeat visits is very, very important. So by saying so, I'm going to cover 5 design levers that can help shopping malls drive profitability. Yeah. So the first design lever we look into starts from the design stage. So these are the 4 key things when we looked at every time when we design a shopping mall. It's because design in retail, every small detail is very important. So retail is detail. So definitely we need to look into driving people to come into the mall, how long they're going to spend in the mall, what is actually the different product mix that we're going to create, and of course, essentially look into driving the investments back into both the developers and the retailers. So from a footfall standpoint, we want to look into designing where are the entrances, where are the people circulating within the mall itself, how can we make them distribute the circulation so that they walk everywhere within the mall. And of course, sightlines are very important, making sure that no retail shops are left behind. And of course, the pathways, how comfortable the walkways are. There are, of course, different types of thinking to this. Some more premium shopping malls, you want bigger, wider walkways. Some malls, if you want to create a market feel experiences, then the pathway becomes smaller and tighter. So it really depends on who we are trying to target, what kind of customers you're trying to attract to come here. Of course, the moment they're in, we need to look into where they're spending their time, whether we want to create rest stops for people to sit around, or we just want them to just keep going to the cafes, right? So those kind of things can also be done through the design. Interactive features are some things that keep repeating customers to come back, and of course they stay longer in our shopping mall. And to us, comfort-focused design is very important. Like I mentioned, Malaysia, we like air conditioning in the shopping mall, but however, we're also seeing an uptick trend of open air mall spaces, especially post-COVID. Not because customers want more open air spaces, but mainly because developers are also looking to cutting down air conditioning costs, because air conditioning costs is a very major part of service charge, right? And especially in a country like Malaysia, which is so hot all the time, the cooling capacity, the cooling cost is getting more and more expensive. So the shift in trend is also driven by profits. And of course, areas that we can actually create more community event spaces, because today there's only so much regional malls that we can build. More and more shopping malls are right now built at suburban area, targeted at more localized community. So having community means that they are more regular customers. They come to the mall on a more regular basis, maybe 2 or 3 times a week, as compared to for them going to big regional malls, which probably they only visit once a month or during festive season. Now, once we have secure the right kind of customers that we want, how long we want to spend that time, then now we can convince the right kind of tenants to come in. Because building a shopping mall is always a chicken and egg situation. You get the right tenants to come in to attract the right customers, or designing the right customer base, then we can attract the right kind of tenants. So to us, it always starts with the customer, then the tenant will come in, because today, even retailers themselves have so many choices. It's not just about how much rental they're going to pay, but whether they can even survive in the mall itself. So a lot of it is through design. We can actually do smart tenant clustering, like zoning, cafe areas, whether is it more premium cafes, premium F&Bs, or even the small kiosks, which is your everyday, regular kind of F&B cafe kind of thing. And of course, through this kind of tenant strategy, we must also make sure that these tenants are also placed in a way whereby it's also logical for the customers to shop. So say, for example, in front of usually anchor tenant supermarkets, you will have all the grab and go kiosks, because it's only logical that they maybe on the way out from supermarket, they pick something up and go before they head back, right? And so this is what we talk about, anchor tenant, adjacency tenants. And also, through the design, we also try to look at reducing dead zones. Sometimes designing a shopping mall, we know that form comes over function, but from a retail design standpoint, sometimes this creates a lot of dead zones. So what can we do with all these dead zones area to drive people to go? So usually dead zones in the mall, we usually put things a lot like services, very dedicated destination points that we want tenants to look for and go to. And through all this exercise, essentially, is to get better rental returns for the developers. Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's all talking about profits. Yeah. Specifically today, I will share a case study on post-refurbishment. So this is actually a very small suburban mall located in Kuala Lumpur called the Waterfront at Desa Park City. Built in 2007, this is actually a shopping mall which is only 125,000 square feet, located within a gated community. So it's not only within a small community, it's within a gated community. So it's very much, they have a park that's adjacent to it, 5-acre park. However, it very much focuses a lot on lifestyle, wellness, essential services, and very strong F&B content. In total, their tenancy list, 45% is focused on F&B. In 2019, the mall is doing so well. They actually did a 15 million ringgit asset enhancement. But this 15 million ringgit only enhanced and added on 5,000 square feet of net lettable area. So you think about it, it's actually not a lot. But what essentially they did was they added better entrances. They added a direct connectivity between the retail to the park itself, and of course improve a lot of escalators, improve a lot of the lifts. So now what this result in is, originally in 2007, when they first opened the mall, their rental rate was going as low as 1 ringgit per square feet. And even then, convincing tenants to come into this mall was a challenge because it's suburban again, small area, gated community. But by 2019, after the refurbishment, their rental rate went up from 4 ringgit to 4 ringgit 50 cents up to 50 ringgit per square feet, depending on tenant. And originally, I had some stories that I've known of tenants who, in 2007, didn't believe that this mall would work. And by 2019, they wanted to go back in. The mall, the developer says, so sorry, no space for you. You just have to wait for the next round. So one of the key features why this mall is so successful, besides being in an outdoor mall adjacent to the park, is one of the things is that they do a lot of community events. They know who their target market is. They are willing to invest to continue to uplift the mall. And actually, surprisingly, being a Muslim-based country in Malaysia, this developer know that their target market is predominantly in the Chinese-based community. And therefore, they decided to take the risk to make the mall pet-friendly, which is not very common in Malaysia itself. So by having a pet-friendly mall, over the weekends, you will see a lot more growth in pet parents coming to the mall, right? It's funny how I used to be a pet parent too. So I will drive a different kind of customers because of the mall having this pet-friendly facility. They will drive, people on the weekends will drive 20, 30 minutes away, not in their direct community, to just come to the mall so that their fur kids can have fun, right? So moving on to the design level number 2 is talking about how design can help brand a mall. Now, this is understanding, I would take our 21 years of experience in designing retail outlets. This is actually our second shopping mall with Sime Darby Property, which is a very prominent real estate developer in Malaysia. And this is actually our new mall that's going to open end of the year. Yes, there's more shopping malls that's going to open end of the year. So taking all of these 4 key things we're talking about, understanding who our customer is, how long we want them to spend the time in the mall, the right kind of tenant mix, and then the potential of return investments for the clients. We were tasked as a mall interior designer to look in all these aspects and now take the role of designing all the detailed aspects of the shopping mall itself to allow the client, which is the developer, to brand the mall as a medium to premium shopping mall. So as retail is very detailed, so we looked at even how the info counter is, the services that we're going to put in for the mall, LED screens, which is very, very popular right now. It was a very interesting project with this because this building was originally built as an auto mall. It's a 20-year project in the making. It was completely built. Then the client had a change of heart because of the market changes. So they readapted the whole project and now converted it into a mall that is meant for middle to upper class community within a golf and country resort and adjacent to what we call a very premium more residential area called Bangsa and Damansara Heights. So in that sense, we are trying to go for mid to premium level mall, but it doesn't mean that we have to also spend very high budget on the interior design. So as designers, we were tasked to design all these areas. From the flooring, we had to rip off all the existing flooring that was built originally because they still had to go through inspections to pass the previous certificate of completion from the original design. And when we worked with the retail planner to redid the whole mall, we had to rechange the flooring. And right now we looked into better floorings. That doesn't necessarily mean it's expensive, but more better, easier to maintain for the future. And right now, with so many of this real-like looking ceramics, right? I just came back from Fosun in December. Looking at tiles right now, the technology of tiles has improved so much that we don't even need to use real marble. And these are things that we can actually utilize in the mall itself to give it that marble look, but doesn't necessarily cost like the real marble. So ceiling design, we had to rechange all the design and looking at understanding what's actually the upcoming trend, which is all the new malls that we are looking at is all organic looking. We had to also place all these elements into the mall. Simple things are even common area columns. We had to treat it with finishes. However, due to budget constraints, we very like to use the word value engineering. We still had to clad every column. But what we did was, for the 1 meter from floor, we actually clad it in tiles, and everything on the top, we actually made it simple paint. Even the paint selection, we had to think about future maintenance and operations, how easy it is for a simple maintenance team in the mall to just maintain it. So no fancy texture paint for areas that has very, very high touch. Now for areas that is a very controversial situation, because every time I have meetings with the client, we talk about overall mall design, look and feel, they approve it really fast. But when it comes to public toilets, I'm not sure you know about this, but due to cultural reasons, Malaysian public toilets are notoriously known to be very, very wet and very humid, right? Because we all have to install this thing called the bidet. So when you talk about public toilets, we right now have to emphasize a lot about how do we look at maintaining the public toilets, the design of the public toilets, because public toilets, surprisingly, is an area where a lot of customers spend their time in. And they go to public toilets and they immediately make an impression of what this mall is all about, whether the mall is well maintained, what's the standard of the mall. So when it comes to public toilets, the conversation goes on, sometimes can be in a 6 to 8 hour debate about what we should put into it. But the detailing, every part of the detail for public toilets we have to look into. Even the weight of the door, the hinges, those are things that is very, very high touch. Everybody, most of the time we go to the mall, I will even go to public toilets to just see what's the design like, right? And right now, I mean, being a parent myself, baby rooms, nursery room becomes a very critical part for me. I've virtually raised my 2 kids in different nursery rooms around malls in Kuala Lumpur. So by understanding that, we want to make sure that these areas are also very friendly to parents when they come to the mall and very comfortable for them. Areas that also have a lot of dwell time, which is areas where people stand and wait, which is your lift cars, your lift lobby. These are areas also we focus a lot of the detailing into to make sure that it's easy to maintain, but yet exude the design grandness into it. So even areas like escalators and travelators finishes, one might think it's a very simple thing, but the maintaining travelators and escalators is actually a very big cost in the mall. And especially a lot of the design looks very fancy if we put lighting below the escalators. It's when maintenance happens. Now, how do we change even a single light bulb below the escalators? These are things that we need to look into. So other part of the malls that can generate revenue for the clients are like areas like atriums and promotional areas, common areas like seating. Even seating, you can look into generating revenue because it can sometimes be areas that we can put branding, and push carts and common area kiosks. With this mall itself, we also cladded a 3-story height column, which was existingly there, and I can't remove the columns, right? Even though no matter how we refurbish the building itself, but we decided to, and we managed to convince the client to clad it in LED screen because these are areas that we can also generate future marketing revenue. So from an ID standpoint, we not only want to look into permanent fixtures, but also work with clients to see how we can also generate marketing revenue for them. And again, Even simple things like directory boards, signages, exterior signages leading to the mall is very important. And not forgetting the very key important thing is lighting in the mall. Right now, a lot of the malls that we have in Malaysia, we are actually aiming towards about 600 lux. That means we are no longer in the era whereby we like dark shopping, dim lighting, like natural. We try to emulate a lot of lighting similar to natural light. All right, now design level number 3. It might seem simple, but wayfinding and leading people around the mall itself is very, very critical. How many times you got lost even trying to find a simple toilet, right? How many times people get lost going into the car park, not knowing where it is, how to go into the mall. And this is very important in Malaysia, especially because we are a very huge driving culture. We might have malls that link to public transportation systems, but a lot of our community-based malls are actually very heavily dependent on cars. So the driving factor becomes very important, and how signages lead people to go in from highways, from the road level. This is very important. So looking at wayfinding, we even look at studying from the external experience before they come into the mall. So once they're in the mall, how do we lead them to park in car parks? I'm not sure whether this is unique to Malaysia, but we have special female car park areas, right? So which I think is actually quite unique. We also have family car park areas, which sometimes the mall trying to attract the family crowd. We also have, of course, our disabled parking, and right now, EV parking is a very big thing in Malaysia right now. So, because I think the EV driving culture everywhere else in the world is also increasing. So signages within the car park itself can also try to bring different kind of customers coming in. Especially right now in Malaysia, data has been proven that most of the EV car owners are actually landed property car owners. So that means that people who drive EVs are from right now middle to upper income level. So malls who want to attract these kind of customers right now can increase, and they are putting more and more EV charging bays within the mall itself. So signages to lead people to go around the car parks, signages in the mall itself to tell you where your anchor tenant is. Now this is actually a shopping mall that we did in 2020, that opened in 2020. This is our first mall project with Sime Darby. It opened in the middle of COVID. So now all the wayfinding was done pre-COVID, and now we have to open the mall during COVID time. So the wayfinding that has already been installed can't be changed, but because the ease of accessibility of entering the mall opened in the middle of November 2020. We had so much customers coming in that we were all also a bit fearful because it was during mid-COVID, right? You want people to come to the mall, but too many people coming to the mall is also a problem. So sometimes you say maybe the design was done too well. Too many people. I think on the opening weekend, we had close to 40,000 people per day coming into the mall. It was crazy. We had to make announcements in the mall to tell people to, not to say to get out, but to sort of like really keep their distance. So in the mall itself, we looked into all the wayfinding aspects of column wraps, the digital wayfinding, leading where to go to the mall. Because especially right now in Malaysia, there is a new regulation by our call it fire bomber, which is our fire protection agency, whatsoever, that right now lift lobbies and travelator lobbies cannot no longer be glass. It has to be a compartment by itself. So can you imagine parking your car, not knowing where to access the shopping mall? It's very, very scary. So wayfinding becomes very, very critical. We have to paint super big signages to just tell people where is the entrance to the mall itself, because it's all covered by walls. So sometimes understanding local authority requirements and how design can actually sort of bypass this and work together with the developers to drive people to come into mall is very critical. Then of course, facilities is very important. We need to use the washroom, we need to use the baby changing room, the nursery, and of course in Malaysia we also have the Muslim prayer room, which is what we call the surau, which is usually hidden in some dead corner in the mall. So signages leading to these areas are also very important. And of course, the exit experience. Once the customer shops around the mall, they buy all the things that they need. Now, even the exit experience is very important. Sometimes some clients can tell us, okay, just put a thank you note and say thank you and come again. But to us, it's also beyond, a little bit beyond that. At these exit points are also areas where we can put marketing materials to sort of encourage regular and repeat customers coming back to the mall. So what are your loyalty programs that you have in the mall or your future upcoming events? These are also areas where you can actually put near where the exit points are. So next design level that we talk about is experience-driven design. I think this whole morning, a lot of the speakers were all talking about experience-driven design, right? Because it's true. That's the only thing that sets us back between going to a mall and buying things online. So we recently had we had a site visit with our whole team to Shenzhen. I think right now China is very exciting, a place to be, to see shopping malls. And after walking 20,000 steps a day, visiting only 2 to 3 shopping malls, that's my picture of Tim. We were really, very, very tired, going to the last mall of the day, which is called Vanke Mall in Shenzhen. So what we find very interesting is because we were also tired, right? We felt that they had really interesting spaces that sort of advertise the mascot of the mall, but yet at the same time made it Instagrammable, that they put small little rest chairs. So merging both marketing, Instagrammable or TikTok kind of concepts into rest areas in the mall itself was quite cute. And yeah, because of that, we took a picture, right? So making it a nice experience because we were tired, but at the same time, it was quite cute. And even this mascot was widely seen around the mall, and therefore making it very memorable. Other areas that we can actually do a lot of experience-driven design is through having amazing event spaces that we can always create different kind of events that meant for both communities or even targeted customers to increase footfall coming into the mall itself. Yeah, so these are also pictures that we took from a new mall, I think that just opened about 2 years ago in Hong Kong, called Kai Tak, which if you have a chance, go to Kai Tak, which is where the original old airport from Hong Kong is. They had a cinnamon roll event, which my daughter, I only know it's cinnamon roll because my daughter likes cinnamon roll. And I think they were trying to target a younger crowd and younger generation of people coming in. Not saying that adults also don't like cinnamon roll, maybe some of them they do. But even markets, these are all weekend markets at another mall in Shenzhen called Coco Park. It had an amazing big open atrium area. And the last time when I visited with the Malaysian Shopping Mall Association during our last study trip, they had an amazing event space, which I think in the evening, even if on a weekend, in the evening, it drew in a lot of crowd of people coming in after work. So being a parent myself, I'm a mom to a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old. I realized that inflation happens naturally, right? It's not driven by any form of economy, it's driven by the children. So as parents ourselves, and we love going to the shopping mall, mainly because one, in the context of Malaysia, mall, of course, with free air conditioning, but we also feel that going to the mall is also very safe. But right now, the malls, to differentiate itself, are also putting in a lot of emphasis on family rooms, kids-friendly areas, kids' toilets. My 6-year-old is always very happy when she sees a toilet that is her size, right? So as parents myself, I tend to frequent back all these malls that has all these facilities. And in Malaysia, we also have this thing called the family room, whereby there is a toilet that has the urinal, you have kids' toilet, you have the adult toilet. Because, I don't know, maybe in security-wise, we don't trust our kids to just go to the washroom by themselves. So these are quite interesting features. However, saying that, these are also pictures that I took from a mall in Guangzhou, and I thought even the design standard has improved a lot, right now. Each and every of these family toilets look different. It's themed differently. So one would think, why do we need to put in so much effort for just kids, right? But actually, at the end of the day, kids are also driven. They can drive the parents go back to the mall, because if they like the mall, parents will naturally follow where they want to go. And again, in malls itself, experience-driven doesn't necessarily mean everything has to be paid or everything has to be free. So we must have a good balance of what is the paid services and what is free for the malls. This is, of course, if you go to Musea, there's a Legoland Discovery Center there. I would definitely like to bring my kids back one day. But even simple things like making slime, these are very interesting kind of tenants that we can actually get to come into the mall. They might not be paying very high rental, but these are tenants that will drive traffic to come into the mall itself. Because honestly, kids kind of tenant-based events are only usually after school or on weekends or even like birthday parties and whatnot. Saying that, a lot of the malls in Malaysia tend to like to charge parents like us to go to playground and playland. Because one, the weather is just so hot. I don't like to go to the open air playground. But there are malls who do very well when they allow parents to bring their kids and play in the playground for free inside the mall. This is actually a very well done playground, free playground in Icon Siam, whereby they encourage people to shop and they get to play the playground for free. So even they have a free train that goes around the mall. Any kids who wants to just go onto the free train can just hop on. And by having the train running around the mall itself, they also put little advertisement boards so that even other shoppers can either see, what are the other services that they have in the mall itself. So it's actually quite interesting to not look at just how we are right now designing shopping malls for shoppers, but also for families. So this is actually a case study I would like to share of a mall in KL. It's a community-based mall, but when this mall first opened in 2018, it was meant to be a temporary structure mall, right? Mainly because the developer forgot they had this piece of land, and until the government said, hey, are you doing anything with the land? If not, we want to build an MRT station. You want to take back the land to build the MRT station. And it's a very, very prime location. So my friend was working in this mall, told us that they had to build the mall really fast. They had to very, very low budget on designing the mall. They had to utilize whatever leftover materials that they had from their current project's development. And at the same time, maintain this one tree that his bosses remembered. That you can clear the piece of land, but this tree must stay. So with limited budget and resources doesn't mean that you can't be creative. So I really like this story because they really thought about how having all these design parameters, design restrictions, right, help them create a very unique product, which is called the Link KL. And you can see when they first opened the mall, they had all these paper cranes, colorful paper cranes that was hung on the rooftop, because when they first opened the mall in 2018, it was only a very small structure mall, only 120,000 square feet. The upper floor was quite quiet because they couldn't convince many tenants to come in. And actually, because of the low budget, actually everybody in the office had to learn how to fold paper cranes. So there was more than 40,000 paper cranes that was folded and hung by the staff. Simple things like brick walls, because they wanted the building to look raw. Sometimes design raw means budget. And they just painted concrete staircase with colorful steps, colorful paint. So, and because of that tree, they deemed the mall a biophilic mall, design mall. So very interestingly, how all these design elements came together, and it became at that point when they first opened, an Instagram hit, right? Everybody went to the mall, they did a lot of pictures, taking with the paper crane, they did a lot of pictures taking with the staircase, and of course the tree structure that was there was part of the whole design and architecture of the space. So interestingly, how even simple design things like that can help create experience in the mall itself. But of course, saying that right now, looking at when we went there recently, they didn't really do much change from the time the mall opened. So it's, in my opinion, it's 2025 right now. It's also a time for refreshment of the mall itself. So it doesn't mean that it's what is good during the beginning will last forever. So the last design level I want to talk about is designing with return of investments in mind. With any projects we want to do, we of course want to make money, right? And if you have an existing mall, doesn't mean that you still can't use design to do different things to increase the revenue of your mall. So like this mall, the first one we talk about repositioning dead zones. This is actually an experimental cafe that our company took upon to invest because we were talking to this shopping mall's previous management. There was a last unit, very small, 900 square feet space that was connecting between the residential block of the building and the shopping mall. However, somehow this unit has been vacant for the longest time. It was previously a convenience store that didn't work out. Then they changed it to a household selling kind of shop, which also didn't work out. So then the mall came and approached me and said, hey, can you do something with the space? He said, what do you need? So what we also looked at was that in the mall itself, as much as we need to generate revenue for the developer, we also looked at what was also the missing element in the mall itself. Now, this location of this shopping mall is situated in, I would call, middle to upper class, a expatriate crowd area in what we call Mont Kiara. Now, this mall has recently been sold to the Sunway Group, but previously, this location, the issue with it is because it's targeted the expatriate crowd, right? The people who work around this area, which is the local Malaysians, the tenant staff, didn't have anywhere affordable to go to eat their lunch. So we experimented with the previous management and said, okay, let's do a small little cafe, a coffee shop, to sort of reposition the dead zone into, if it's a hidden corner that no customers want to go, no tenant want to take up, perhaps now we do this kind of projects to help the tenant staff and the office people around the area to give them an avenue of area that they can come and eat affordable food. Because eating in this mall itself, the attendance range, the per receipt per person range from 20 ringgit to 30 ringgit, which is very expensive. Now then we created a cafe that only serves food for less than 10 ringgit a person, right? Other areas that we can also look into finding more revenues is food courts. So this is another project that we work with a local developer in Subang in Malaysia called Subang Parade. It's one of the first largest mall in Malaysia that was built in the early 90s. And throughout the year, they didn't really change much. And in 2018, 2019, they approached us and say, hey, can you do something with the food court? So we looked at the existing food court space and like, okay, the entrance is small, the tenants are not really doing very well. Why not we do this? We had to relocate one of the anchor F&B tenants, which is next to them, which was occupying another 5,000 square feet space. Let's relocate them somewhere else, pay for their relocation costs. Now retake back this whole area, made it into 15,000 square feet space. And now instead of having individual food court kiosks, now we reposition the kiosk, this area, we call it food garden, by having smaller kiosks instead. And this kiosk, we keep it very simple and very minimal for the developer, whereby we told them the area we consider as mini kiosks that we can lease out, and therefore we don't have to renovate anything for that, but just provided the basic services. And within 3 months, it was fully leased out. So even dead areas like food courts, we can always look at repurposing the space. And of course, now looking at malls, if you have existing columns, do look into cladding with LED screens, because LED screens can really generate marketing revenue. This is a mall in Shenzhen, which was, I think the LED screen span across 6 stories high. Here I am debating with my client to put in LED screens for 2 stories, and you can really see China that's putting in LED screens everywhere. So these are not only makes the mall very vibrant, but it can also generate very good marketing revenue. And it makes the mall, gives it a fresh take every time when customers come. So this is using these 5 design levels. What essentially we did was we created a blueprint audit that you can look into, and how design can actually help revitalize especially existing shopping malls, so that we hope that you can get better returns, have more customers coming in, increase profitability, and of course definitely increase dwell time of customers coming in. So, and of course through this exercise, when you have more customers coming in, better tenants, you can also swap out the existing tenants that don't do so well, and therefore creating better asset value for the mall itself. So same things that you can take from, I hope that you can take from today is, these are the 5 key things. If you have an existing space, how can we look at auditing your circulation flow, access your common areas, how do people coming in into the mall, look at what's the tenant synergy, what are the experience triggers, where can we add more of this experiential driven design into the space of the mall, and think of the returns, not just about the renovation costs. So especially with existing malls, we are looking into, it's not about, you don't have to spend a lot of money. As compared to building new shopping malls, then the design stage comes much earlier. But if you have an existing space, sometimes simple things for upkeeping the mall to keep it fresh doesn't take a lot of money. So maybe some things that we actually usually work with our clients is that if you have 500,000, what can we do with the mall? Where is the priority? Like right now, even our KL East Mall, which is only about 5 years old, we are already talking to clients about the next phase of upgrading, which is looking at the public toilets. Not because we designed the toilets really badly, but because of the high number of volume of traffic of people coming into the mall, which is a good problem. But that means public toilet spaces, which is a very high touch point, tend to be easily broken. So we need to fix that right now.